The first thing anyone in Westeros will tell you about Cersei Lannister is that she is one of the most beautiful women in the Seven Kingdoms. It is a beauty that is striking, golden, and almost mythical, a perfect reflection of the immense power and wealth of House Lannister. But for all her celebrated appearance, the true, dark, and utterly consuming story of her life begins not with a king, but with her twin brother, Jaime Lannister. Their relationship is arguably the most fascinating, yet most deeply corrupt and broken dynamic in the entire saga of A Song of Ice and Fire. It is a connection that goes far beyond simple incest. It is a profound psychological sickness rooted in their childhood, warped by their narcissistic self-image, and finally fractured by the cruel realities of power. The books give us a much clearer and far more chilling window into the twins' minds than the show ever could, thanks to both Cersei and Jaime having point-of-view chapters. What we discover is that their bond is less about mutual love and more about a shared identity. They were born together, looked so much alike as children that Cersei would sometimes dress in Jaime's clothes and be mistaken for him, and they even confessed to each other that they felt incomplete when they were apart. This deep, enmeshed connection meant they never really developed as fully separate individuals. In the A Song of Ice and Fire novels, the sexual relationship between Cersei and Jaime Lannister began in two distinct phases, starting with innocent childhood experimentation and evolving into a conscious affair during their adolescence. As young children living at Casterly Rock, the twins were inseparable and often crept into one another's beds. Jaime recalls that they began experimenting sexually by mimicking the behavior they observed in animals, specifically the dogs and horses around the castle. This early phase came to an abrupt end when they were caught by one of their mother's maids, who immediately informed Lady Joanna Lannister. Horrified, Joanna separated their bedchambers to opposite ends of the castle and placed a guard outside Cersei's door, warning them never to repeat the behavior or she would tell their father, Tywin. However, because Joanna died giving birth to Tyrion shortly after, Tywin remained unaware of the incident, and the twins were effectively separated for years while Jaime squired for Lord Sumner Crakehall. The relationship resumed and became a fully realized sexual affair when they were 15 years old. After distinguishing himself in the campaign against the Kingswood Brotherhood, Jaime was knighted by Sir Arthur Dayne and stopped in King's Landing to visit Cersei, whom he had not seen in 4 years. During this reunion, Cersei seduced Jaime and manipulated him into a life-altering decision. She convinced him that Tywin planned to marry him to Lysa Tully and insisted that the only way for them to remain together was for Jaime to refuse his inheritance and join the Kingsguard. They slept together that night in King's Landing, marking the true beginning of their adult relationship, and the following day Jaime accepted the White Cloak to remain by her side. This is a crucial piece of information. The profound trauma of losing their mother at such a young age, combined with their distant and emotionally cold father, Tywin Lannister, pushed the twins to seek comfort and connection in the only person who truly understood them, each other. It became their singular, shared rebellion against the world and a private sanctuary from their father's oppressive expectations. For Cersei, this relationship was an attempt to overcome the limitations placed upon her as a woman in a deeply patriarchal society. She was Tywin's true child in terms of ruthless ambition and cunning, but she was a woman, and that meant she would never inherit Casterly Rock or hold the real power she craved. In her own internal monologue in the books, we see her constantly frustrated that she was not born male. She views Jaime as her male extension, the man who can do all the things she cannot, the man she can manipulate and control to achieve her goals. She doesn't truly see him as a separate person with his own desires, but as a part of herself. Her love is therefore deeply narcissistic. She loves Jaime because he is essentially a mirror of her own beauty and power, but with the necessary masculine privilege. This explains why she reacts with such fury whenever Jaime asserts his independence, makes friends she doesn't like, or tries to forge his own identity, especially after he loses his hand. In A Feast for Crows, when Jaime finally returns to King's Landing, she tries to seduce him, but he is fundamentally different after his time with Brienne of Tarth. When Jaime refuses to help her in her political power struggle with their father, Tywin, Cersei's internal thoughts reveal a sudden, cold shift. She is shocked and angry, not because her lover has betrayed her, but because her weapon has stopped working. Her love for him, as presented in the books, seems conditional upon his complete obedience and adherence to her will. For Jaime, his feelings for Cersei are a much more traditional, though equally twisted, romantic obsession. He idolizes her. He sees her as the most beautiful, cleverest, and most magnificent woman in the world, the queen of love and beauty who is destined to be his. He is blind to her flaws and completely wrapped up in this courtly, fairy tale idea of their bond. He often dismisses the incest not as a moral crime, but as a minor taboo that they, the Golden Lions of the Rock, are somehow above. He uses their secret as a way to define himself and give his life meaning, especially after he joins the Kingsguard. Jaime's decision to join the Kingsguard in the books is entirely driven by Cersei. Tywin had planned to marry him to Lysa Tully, which would have separated him from Cersei forever and placed him at Riverrun. It was Cersei who convinced him to take the White Cloak, the vow of celibacy, and give up his right to Casterly Rock and marriage. She argued that the vow only forbade him from having a wife, not a lover. This was a hugely selfish act on her part, cementing her control over him and ensuring he would remain in King's Landing. Jaime saw it as a grand, romantic gesture, a sacrifice of his inheritance for the woman he loved. This act of self-abnegation for her cemented a pattern of letting Cersei define his morality and his life. The show, while visually impactful, often simplifies this complex psychological dependency into a passionate, doomed romance. The books, however, meticulously detail the unraveling of their relationship, which truly begins after Jaime is captured and loses his hand. When Jaime is away from King's Landing for an extended period, particularly after his capture, he starts to question his life and his sister. The show touches on his character development through his bond with Brienne, but in the books, this introspection is deep and painful. He begins to see Cersei not as his idealized twin, but as a flawed, selfish, and increasingly incompetent person. In her book chapters, Cersei's sanity and competence deteriorate rapidly. She starts drinking heavily, and her political maneuvering becomes less cunning and more reckless. Crucially, the books explicitly reveal that Cersei sleeps with other men, something the show only hints at or implies vaguely. In A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, Cersei has sexual relationships with Lancel Lannister, Osney Kettleblack, and even visits a healer to procure moon tea, a medieval form of abortion, implying she has other affairs or worries about the consequences of her trysts. When Jaime returns, he is eventually confronted with the reality of her rampant infidelity. This shatters his idealized vision of their relationship, which he had always considered a sacred, exclusive bond between soulmates. The realization that Cersei sees their relationship as something she can simply discard when a convenient substitute is available, men like Lancel who remind her of the old, Jaime, is devastating to him. It reveals the fundamental difference in their love. For Jaime, it was everything. For Cersei, it was a convenience, a comfort, and a tool for power. This growing distance culminates in a cold rejection by Cersei in the books. After his long captivity, Jaime is no longer the perfectly golden, arrogant knight, and Cersei is visibly disgusted by his missing hand and his changed demeanor. The physical and emotional distance is permanent. The only scene of intimacy they share upon his return is a cold, desperate exchange after Joffrey's funeral, which Jaime finds profoundly unsatisfying, and which only further underscores how broken they are. The relationship between Cersei and Jaime Lannister in the books is so messed up because it is built on a foundation of childhood trauma, compounded by incest, and warped by mutual but fundamentally different forms of obsession. It is not a tale of a couple fighting the world for their forbidden love. It is a story about two individuals who failed to become whole people because they spent their entire lives trying to be one person. Jaime sacrifices his honor, his legacy, and his identity for an idealized version of his sister, while Cersei views him as a powerful extension of her own narcissistic will. When Jaime finally tries to reclaim his identity and his honor by refusing to support her increasing recklessness and incompetence as Queen Regent, the relationship dissolves, proving that what they had was not love, but a poisonous, shared dependency that was destined to destroy them both. The books make it painfully clear that they don't even like each other. They simply can't let go of the shared, sick comfort of being twins against the world. And this complex, deteriorating dynamic sets the stage for one of the most anticipated moments in the books, where Jaime, now a Lord Commander of the Kingsguard with a growing sense of personal honor, must face the ultimate betrayal of Cersei's true, unmasked nature. The depth of their sickness, the extent of her infidelity, and the hollowness of their shared fantasy is a tragedy far more compelling and devastating than a simple forbidden love story. It is the final sad proof that their twinship, their golden bond, was always a cage built by their own selfishness and fear. So that's the real messed up truth about the Golden Twins. Let me know your thoughts on their toxic bond in the comments below. If you want more deep dives like this, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.